What's going on, everyone? So I made a video completely unrelated to CJ McCollum, and somehow that turned into a debate about CJ McCollum. And I had a lot of people asking me if I could make a video diving into CJ McCollum. And I've actually had people like sprinkled throughout asking me like, what about CJ? What about CJ? Can you make a video about CJ? So here you go. Here's your video about CJ McCollum. Right off the bat, if I'm being honest, I'm not big on CJ McCollum. I think the Lakers should stay away from CJ McCollum. I get the idea and concept of CJ McCollum, right? Like, Lakers need a guard that can score, right? Lakers need a guard that can put the ball in the hoop and take pressure off of LeBron James and Anthony Davis. And I do think CJ McCollum as like your third guy is good. Problem is, he doesn't solve one of your biggest needs, which, yes, you need a scoring guard, but you also need athleticism, right? You need somebody that can be athletic, apply pressure, right? CJ isn't really the most athletic. I mean, he's not like D'Lo bad, but he's not like Levine good or, some of these are like a Sexton athletically. Now, he is a guy, when he's on, he can cook. We've seen him, have 3 games, and his ability to make plays, shoot the basketball, do multiple things out there on the basketball court. Again, I don't completely hate the idea. My problem is a couple factors. Age, he's 33. Now, he does line up with kind of LeBron James and Anthony Davis's timeline, right? These next 2 years. But he's making $33 million this year. Now, he also drops to $30 million next year. But if he was like $33 million expiring, then it's kind of the same argument as like, Brandon Ingram. If it works, great. If it doesn't, then at least you can kind of like retool, right? Or if it works, you can kind of restructure and give him a cheaper deal. Problem is that it's not, right? Yes, he drops $3 million, which is great, but still making $30 million. Now, you could argue it's a $30 million expiring contract that, would be valuable to many teams, especially with the new CBA. But I don't want to keep falling into this trap. I don't want to keep falling into this hole of like, okay, well, we had Russell Westbrook who's expiring. Now we have D'Lo who's expiring. And then we went to CJ McCollum that's expiring. And it's just this continued process of just the same thing over and over again, right? I'd rather like pick a lane, pick a direction, like, do something that makes sense. And I just think that given CJ's the money he's making, essentially $63 million over the next 2 years, I don't think he's worth the price. If he was like $17 million, something like if you could swap him and D'Lo, sure, right? Because CJ McCollum, he has a little more experience, been in conference finals, right? Like, he's a guy that has shown up in playoffs, right? He's a guy that is comfortable in that role. I think as your third guy does make a lot of sense. Again, he's a guy that could go off this season, right? You see what he's doing. He's having a solid season this year. So 12 games, right? Which that is another little caveat. Injury issues. A lot of people are like, Levine has injury issues. Levine's has played more games over the last 5 seasons than CJ McCollum, which is a problem, right? CJ McCollum played 6 games last season, which I know people are going to be like, oh, Zach LaVine played, 25. Yeah, but then he played like 77, 67, like where like you look at some of these and it's like 26, 36, 62, which isn't bad, 47, right? Like, he's had his injury struggles, but let's assume he can play 70 games. Sure. Okay, as long as he's playing like 70 games, 65 to 70 games, I'm good with that, right? I've said the same thing about Zach LaVine. Zach LaVine's giving you 65, 70 games. I'm good with that. Like, not everyone has to play all 82 games. And that's just not the real standard anymore for like the stars, all-star caliber players. But diving into the stats here, right? 33.5 minutes. He is taking 18-point field goal attempts per game. He is shooting 43.4%, which is down from last season, which he shot just under 46%. 3-point range is where the concern lies. He is taking 8.5 attempts from 3, and he is only shooting 31.5%. It's not good, right? Now, last season, he shot 43% on 8.4 attempts. If he could get back to that, that could change a lot. Now, you could argue in CJ's defense, he's been kind of the only guy for most of those games, right? Like the Pelicans have just been decimated by injuries, right? Like, so it's real different when you're best guy on the floor is like, I was just gonna say Herb Jones, but he's been hurt. Jose Alvarado's been hurt. It's like you're rookies, right? Like some of these nights, you just see some of these lineups, and it's just like, all right, so it's like CJ and a bunch of G League guys, right? Like, so how much of it is he just hasn't had the other complementary pieces, right? Like, again, I've said it before. Big difference between playing alongside guy A and B, and then LeBron James and Anthony Davis. Right? Like, CJ McCollum's just going to get looks like he's never gotten in his career playing alongside LeBron James and Anthony Davis. So I do think that there's just naturally that progression that you'll see. So if he can get back to being 40%, now he is a career 40% three-point shooter, so that's good. He's a career 39.8% to be exact on 6.3 attempts. So history tells you that he should be around that range. So shooting-wise, great, cool. He's a guy that can play off ball because he's played off ball his entire career, right? Dating back from Damian Lillard to now with the Pelicans with Brandon Ingram and Zion and all that stuff. So he's a guy that can play on ball, he can play off ball, all of that. So I'm not really too concerned with the three-point shooting. 2-point range, 53.8%, which is good. That's actually up since the last 2 seasons. And he's doing that on 9.9 attempts per game, EFG of 50.7%. But again, to kind of further highlight that, he's also taken the most field goal attempts he's taken since his first season with the Pelicans, right? So he's taken a lot of games. And I don't think Zion played that year, and I think Brandon Ingram only played like half that season. So he's basically taken more attempts than anybody, especially more than he'd play with the Lakers, right? But foul line, free throw line, this is concerning. He's shooting 62.5% from the foul line. So is it just a bad shooting season for him? Is it just a slump? Right, because he's only played 12 games. He's kind of been in and out with injuries and stuff. Maybe, maybe not. It's only 2.7 attempts, but still little concerning. And then he's averaging 4 rebounds and 4 assists. It's 3.8 and 3.9 assists, but rounded up 4 and 4. So he's averaging 20.3 points. He has been a 20-point-a-game scorer pretty much his entire career, right? His career average is 19.5, and that's because his first 2 seasons in the league were like 5-point averages. Outside of that, he's been basically a 20-point game scorer his entire career. So scoring-wise, yes, he's a guy that can go get you buckets, right, which is something that the Lakers need. But again, they need the athleticism. They need the defense. They need multiple things. If it were to happen, I wouldn't be mad about it. I'd actually be pretty excited about it, right? Because, I just think he's a more consistent version of, a Reeves, right? Like, what you're looking for Reeves to be, CJ McCollum would be the better version of that, right? He's a better Austin Reeves. Cool, perfect, right? Reeves talk about the pecking order. Reeves gets to drop down, all that stuff. But Reeves and CJ McCollum as your backcourt, I'm not really sold on that. You would have to trade Austin Reeves, in my opinion. Which, look, I've said I'm not against at all, but there's just no way. You do not need. I mean, I've said this about if you got Zach LaVine and Sexton and some of these other guys. I don't think you need Austin Reeves either, but. If you go, especially CJ McCollum, you can't. You got to trade Austin Reeves, right? Because you need to turn Reeves into that Bruce Brown type or something like that. Somebody that can apply the pressure, be that defensive piece, right? Hold their own. You need, if you can get turn Reeves. If you told me we ended up getting Bruce Brown, CJ McCollum, Dorian Finney-Smith, and a Day'Ron Sharpe for essentially D'Lo, Rui, Reeves, Vando, right? Whatever. I'd be fine with that. Again, it's not my first option. It's not my favorite option. To me, I would still rather have Zach LaVine. He's just a better overall scorer, better guy, applies better rim pressure, right? Better catch and shoot 3-point shooter, better athleticism. He's also been better defensively, although, this season he has had some of his struggles, but how much of that is just Denver or the Bulls have been terrible? And Zach LaVine has to do literally everything. The guy had an 11-9-9 game the other night. Guy has to do everything. I'm not super sold on CJ McCollum. Again, I don't hate it. If you told me, if we woke up tomorrow and the Lakers traded for CJ McCollum, cool. I'll hype it up. I will gas it up like we just got prime Michael Jordan. But in reality, like he's lower on the list for me than some of the other guys, right? His price, his age, right? His recent struggles staying on the basketball court. Like, there's just several factors that go into it. The lack of defense, right? Like, at least LaVine, like I said, he has more athleticism, applies better rim pressure. He can basically do everything CJ McCollum does. He's just hyper athletic. Like, McCollum is basically what we want Austin Reeves to be, right? Like that 20-point a game night guy that could give you 40% from three. Again, I understand he's not doing it this season, but be 40% from three for a career, and then be 50+% from 2-point range, and basically give you a 20-piece every night as your third option on efficiency. Because he was doing that with Brandon Ingram and Zion and all that other stuff, right? This is a guy that on any given night give you 30. Like, yes, I don't hate the idea that it is a guy that we need, but again, I mean, it's always price. Like, if the Pelicans are just like giving him, like, hey, just if you'll take him, cool, right? Like, if you could do like, I don't know, D'Lo and, well, like, he'd have to do what? Like, D'Lo, because D'Lo and Gabe Vincent get you to 30, what gets you to 30, or 28 million, 29 million, 29.5 million. So, even if you put in, like a Jalen Hood-Schifino, you'd have to do, like, D'Lo, Jalen, you'd have to do, like, D'Lo, Gabe Vincent, Jalen Hood-Schifino, and, like, Jackson Hayes or something, right? So maybe you clear some roster spots. But even then, or you could do like D'Lo on Rui and clear like $2 million off. But I'd rather like kind of stack guys, clear some roster spots, go keep Rui and some of these other contracts like Vando and stuff like that to go maybe pull off other swings. Like I said, go get a Day'Ron Sharpe and a Dorian Finney-Smith. I would then look to trade Austin Reeves and go get you know, a Bruce Brown or a Dennis Schroeder or something like that. I know people aren't going to be fans with that, but again, you have another redundancy in Austin Reeves and CJ McCollum. At least with Zach LaVine, again, Zach LaVine gives you he's like the polar opposite of what Austin Reeves is. So you get just kind of better balance, you get that athleticism. But again, however you feel, whatever your thoughts are, I'd love to hear it. So let me know down in the comments below. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me a lot. It's me enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one.